So I was going to prepare an upcoming. I was going to prepare a feature on upcoming changes to the Guild Finder system. The Guild Finder, as you, in case you have forgot, is a pretty simple search tool that'll let you find and apply to guilds that use specific parameters, like the ones that you see, not there, but right here. And then guild officers who saw these applications, they can invite people, or they can invite the applicants if they're online at the time, or at the very least they can send them an in-game message if they weren't. It wasn't a great system, but that's just what it was. So early builds in the 8.2 PTR, they showed some promise that there would be some changes, maybe some big changes, including a revamped UI, which I'll have on screen somewhere here, as well as some search options. Unfortunately, I never managed to take screenshots of every little bit of the UI, but there was the suggestion that maybe, just maybe, there would be, within these search options, you wouldn't see just guilds, but you would be able to see communities as well. And I was like, ooh, okay, this is kind of exciting. Now, communities, as you know, they're not guilds, but something like that is still a feature that I think was really, really needed. Unfortunately, as you can see right here, the changes to the Guild Finder were entirely reverted, and now we're just back to the old system. So unless next week, or the next build, or unless Blizzard comes out in a statement, they push something that is entirely different, and more so, if it's feature complete, hey, that'd be great. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen. It looks like, for the most part, with regards to updating the Guild Finder system, that project has just been abandoned for the foreseeable future. If they went through with the system as I saw it, with the search options and all that stuff, and community searches as they were, I think I would still be pretty upset, because I think that overall the delivery was kind of weak anyway. It seemed the search options were not that great. The browse options, they weren't very well defined. It would still be extremely difficult to find the kind of guild or community that you wanted, assuming that you can even search for communities. And I'm entirely not sure if that was the intention. First, I'm gonna set the tone here, and this is a little uncharacteristic of me, but I'm upset about this. I'm pretty pissed that we're stuck with this still, that we still have this, because you know that I've been a huge advocate for communities, even though they didn't work out because of certain reasons, and I'm going to get into that. But I'm a huge advocate about creating more stable teams, about creating a family, about creating your own self-contained microcosm, your little community. And I'm upset about it. And I'm going to preach to you folks at home and elsewhere that you guys should be upset about this too. Because it's that important. You know, me who tries to see both sides of things and all that stuff, I truly, truly believe in my heart that this is something that everyone should be pretty pissed about it. Now, I've suggested a lot of things, like for those of you who follow me and watch all the different videos where I suggest certain things, like, hey, here's a cool feature change, or hey, here's me redoing professions and class progression and leveling and yada yada yada. There are many of you who are like, oh, okay, those specific changes, so that's like a bit much. Or, hey, you know what, I get what you're trying to say here, but the way you're implementing that, it's shit. You know, I don't like that idea at all, and that's fine. But when it comes to this, though, when it comes to improving the social structure in the World of Warcraft, it's one of those fundamental things. It's as if saying, hey, you know, I think that class progression should improve. Sure, you agree with me on that. I believe that the social system should be improved as well, and I do definitely think that you should agree with me on that too. And if not, man, when it comes to the social system in WoW, there's the gameplay system and there's the social system. The social system in WoW has been going in the wrong direction for a while now. Many of us have made the arguments that rail against cross-realm zones, the Guild Finder, things like that, that make the World of Warcraft feel like the big city where you get lost in it. The community feels so big, despite those of us who say that the guild is literally dead. There are those of us who see the community as so big that you can't find each other, that you can be anonymous, that you can be the dick in the group because you know you can just jump into another group and that's kind of okay. But when it comes to CRZ and Group Finder and things like that, for the most part, I'm kind of okay about that sort of system because it's important to have a fallback when you need to fill that spot. It's okay to have those temporary. It's okay to facilitate making those temporary partnerships. Like, for example, if I'm short 2 or 3 people for a guild run, it's like, hey, all of us are here and we don't want to ruin our night. We want to have something to do. And if we didn't have like the group finder and if we happen to be on a pretty dead server, or there just doesn't have to be a lot of happen to be a lot of people on at the time, we're fucked. And that was the reality of things once upon a time. In the olden days, before we had the ability to group with others across realm. How many dungeon runs or raids didn't happen because you were a couple people short? That was the reality that people faced, and many did not, but many did too. So having these kinds of social tools helps as a band-aid, as a patch. The problem that I'm seeing is that this whole pug world has become so dependent on this tool that they've lost the value of creating lasting relationships, lasting partnerships with people that they otherwise would have a good time grouping with. Why is it that after the end of a dungeon run, a successful dungeon run, or a pug raid, or something like that, how come it seems less likely, much less likely, that after that run is over, you reach out to those people and be like, hey, you know, it was cool running with you. Can I add you to whatever? I feel like that isn't as big of a deal anymore because grouping has become so ingrained into the culture of WoW, or pugging has become so ingrained into the culture of WoW that people just don't really feel like it's a big deal anymore. But that's not what I wanted to talk about anyway. I'm not here to talk about, you know, the benefits of having cross-realm groups and stuff like that, because it's already here. It's already here. And the way that the World of Warcraft is set up right now with splintered servers and so many imbalanced communities within these servers that you can't help but feel compelled to need these kinds of systems. So we're not talking about that. We're talking about what could have been a better guild finder that didn't happen in this patch, and it pisses me off because there seems to be this big imbalance on Blizzard's focus on how the social structure should work. Blizzard is putting too much. It sucks because I'm kind of railing on players too, but Blizzard is relying too much on us to use these limited tools to try and create these fantastic organic systems and rely on that. So they've been focusing mostly on creating cross-realm features to get people together that otherwise couldn't. That's still okay, but the problem is the World of Warcraft still carries like millions of players, or you know, lots of players among its various regions. And there's a lot of help when it comes to creating these temporary partnerships, but there's just not enough to help create a community, a real, long-lasting community. I'm using myself as an example because it's the best example. You know, I'm there. My boots are on the ground. After running a guild for almost 12 years, there are so many legitimate problems that we face in the World of Warcraft that we can forgive because the social structure that we have within our guild just mitigates a lot of those problems. Let me find this one quote that I found, surprisingly enough, on MMO Champion. It's from one of the moderators, I believe. So here's the quote. Design weaknesses are often covered up by having fun with friends and people you know. I play BFA a couple times a week with people I know and have been playing with for years. A couple of them are family members. Frankly, we have fun. As disappointing as BFA is, it's not a big deal if you're enjoying it with friends or people you know from communities, guilds, or your friends list. There's two different worlds within the World of War. End quote. There's two different worlds within the World of Warcraft. There is the way I see it, there's two communities. There is my guild and everything that we experience within this guild. And then there's everything else outside. And there is a thick wall between that. I don't cross that. Some of my guild mates, like Shad, who does a lot of Mythic Plus, he crosses that barrier. He goes into the pug world and he deals with those sorts of things. I didn't. I don't. I observe and all that stuff, and I read forums and I look at what's going on out there, but it doesn't affect me. The whole idea of class imbalance and classes not feeling like they're viable, it doesn't matter in the guild, because we're more likely to die to stupid shit than to underperform because our class got like mega nerfed and all that. And we're a heroic guild, which is not a mythic guild. We don't do the highest and latest content, but the majority of players do not do the highest and the latest things of content. They just want to jump in and have fun and have a good time. And I'd say hang out with people that they know. Throughout the past couple years with the whole BFA cycle so far, I've been a huge proponent of the community system. I was like, oh man, communities, this is awesome. This could be the thing that not exactly replaces guilds, but it allows people to commune and come together and take part in their own small community. Especially now with Classic WoW, with the Classic WoW beta coming out, we're seeing the Classic WoW community come together, at least socially. In game, it's a little bit tougher because it's being largely represented by what we see on streams and whatnot. So I think that isn't a entirely accurate view of how the actual Classic WoW experience is going to be. But I'm hopeful. And the systems in Classic WoW are which are very simple, are in place to create this sort of small town community. The smaller the community, the better, is the argument that could be made. And yet, there is not a lot of proactive actions in part of players to create their own small communities. They're relying on Blizzard to do it for them in the form of separate servers, pristine realms, etc., etc., etc. There is agency within players to create their own small community. They can make a goddamn guild. They can build their own freaking community. But they don't. And why is that? Well, in my opinion, the reason is because it's so much easier to just get a pug together rather than invest the time and energy to try and build a guild and try to get it together, knowing that it can splinter at any time because people that are in that guild, they might think to themselves, oh well, shucks, it's been like 3 weeks and I haven't been progressing through heroic or mythic content. I might as well leave and find a better team, or just pug my way through because it's going to be a lot easier, or I just don't give a shit about raids or whatever. The big weakness of communities in BFA has still been, and I'm going to keep preaching this, it still has been the lack of search function. So when I saw this stuff in the 8.2 PTR, I thought to myself, ooh, this might be good. This might be good. This might be awesome. This might be the thing they might be doing the thing that I've been bitching about for like months and months and months. And then they pull it back. On the one hand, I am glad that they pulled back on this because it wasn't going to come out looking very good. On the other hand, they pulled back on it, which tells me that improving the social structure within the World of Warcraft is not a very high priority for them. And that's upsetting to me. I think that improving the social structure is critical to the perception of how we perceive the World of Warcraft. Because how many people out there feel like the game sucks because, oh, I can't find a group. My class sucks and no one wants me. Even though I'm like a good player, even though I am a great person and I'm funny and I'm likable and blah, blah, blah. But I am a shadow priest or something. I'm some undesired class, and that's not cool. Being able to find your own community based on certain preferences, like I want to find a community that focuses on roleplay at this time of day. I want to be able to find something that is LGBTQ friendly. That might be important to people. Not being able to find that, it sucks. I think it really sucks. And this is me being upset, and I don't even experience this. I can't imagine how others feel who don't feel the value in guilds. And it's okay if you don't feel the value in guilds or communities, because that's what these options are for. That's what the group finder is for. If you do want to live in a world where you jump from group to group and meet all sorts of different people, that's okay. But there isn't a good facility for those of us who want to find that permanent home. And I think that the community wants to be handheld through it. They want Blizzard's help with trying to find that. And I think Blizzard is really punishing players by not implementing these kinds of features that help with it. And I know that when it comes to classic WoW, there are those who wave the classic WoW flag, and they're like, oh well, we don't have to worry about any of that stuff because blah blah blah, because we don't have to worry about cross realm and CRZ and so on and so forth. The problems come from the introduction of cross realm because it creates the whole big city feeling. But I don't think that was. I think that's one part of the problem. One part of the problem is that yes, they allowed people to they opened up the city. They let down the walls and they allowed everyone to come in and intermingle with each other. There wasn't a very good equivalent match to help people that want to bolster their own small community to do that. I hear so much, and it's almost because I think it's a great thing, but it's almost irritating to hear people talk about the class community. Server communities were everything; they were the best, and modern WoW is shit, or retail WoW is shit, whatever they want to, whatever word that they use for it these days. But I think to myself, hello, you can make your own small community if you just put in a little bit of time and effort, and you can just make a goddamn guild. But they don't, and instead they blame Blizzard for it. So I think it is on onus of Blizzard to help people out. Just make a search option for guilds and communities. Well, yeah, communities too. Make a search option. Bolster that and cool. You don't need to have incentives, because the incentive of being in a guild is everything that I talked about. Being part of your own closed community where you hang around people that that who you are familiar with, and you don't have to worry about the social barriers that come from pugging. Oh, I need a certain gear score or item level or a Raider IO score. Fuck that. Just come, because you're my buddy from high school. You're my niece or nephew or family member. Come. Everyone's gonna come until we have problems. Blah blah blah. That's for the most part. That's how my guild works. You come, and it's not a problem till it's a problem. We'll just adapt to, we'll try to overcome challenges together, and that's it. There are people that don't give a shit about being in a guild. That's okay. And when it comes to trying to build a guild, you're not going to be able to, day one, hey, I made my guild. Let's go run heroic. Let's do this. And then have all 25 of your people up and going. You're going to struggle at first. You're going to have to fill that group somehow. And spamming trade, that wasn't enough. It's just not enough these days because of splintered server populations and stuff like that. That's why Blizzard is doing this whole layering option, this whole layering thing, so that way they don't have to worry about that whole big splintering of populations, because people are spread out amongst dozens of servers. It wouldn't surprise me if Classic WoW only has like 10. Just as an example, if they only have like 10 or so servers, and like that's it. And if that's the case, okay, cool. By the time phase 1 starts, those 10 servers, that's going to be it. That's going to be your entire Classic WoW population. It's not going to get any bigger than this. And if that's the case, cool. For something like, but for modern WoW, the damage was already done. And I don't know what it is that has Blizzard hesitant to just do a big mashing of servers as well. I think that would be the thing that that Classic WoW inspires Blizzard to do. Hey, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just take all these realms and smash them all into not 10 realms, but considerably fewer realms than there are now, and then rely on layers or some form of layering. That's like a constant thing, because unlike Classic WoW, modern WoW, it fluctuates. So layering technology doesn't quite work. You'd have to reintroduce layering, in a sense. But I think it's something that can be done, considering that there are going to be big spikes, temporary but large spikes in population when you first start an expansion, because people are here to check it out. Within the first month or two or so, a lot of people are going to fall off, because they're like, okay, cool, I got my jollies, but I think I'll come back in a few months. Or within the first day, they're like, wow, this thing's shit. I'm good. I'm gonna stay out of here. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm a big proponent of having a search option for communities, because it allows basically a guild to exist. You can have this small community that people can search for and whatnot. So I would say to you, Argent, just make a little community, and you can have your own little chat room and all that stuff, and then you're good. And if it's just you and your buddies, then cool. But for those who want to have a bigger cross-realm community, apart from I think the population limits were a bit low, some have said, not having a search option hamstrings the ability for that structure to grow, because not being able to search means that you need to be popular already in order for your community to become successful, because then your community can grow through other methods, such as like Twitter and Facebook or whatever. Without it, your community is going to be extremely limited. And I get that that's probably what Blizzard kind of intended, that they didn't intend it to be like, its own social network. They didn't want to have something like that. But I think this method in practice right now just doesn't work. I think it would be more effective if they tried to do it as if it was a social network where you can browse and look for your own little hovel to join, just like Diablo 3. I think Diablo 3 communities work out just fine, because functionally people just look for them for, I forgot what they're called, rift runs. They'll just join a community for that. And if that's what people want to make a community for, then cool. I think that's totally fine. I do still think that the opportunity and the tools should be there to help implement that. We can't undo what's been done. We can only design forward and not backward. You know what I mean? This is the thing that Blizzard had to react to. Now, understandably, what happened with the World of Warcraft and its history of growth has been unprecedented. Blizzard had a lot to deal with very quickly. They're like, oh shit, what's going on? So they had to deal with 2004, 2005 problems with 2004, 2005 technology, which basically meant servers. Servers. They were making it rain, and they needed to deal with it somehow. That was the way that they did it. And it wasn't perfect, and it led them to where they are today, with having to try and handle these sorts of things. I'm still within agreement with both of you, with many of you who are like, dude, just do like a big awkward merge already, because that might be better. It might be better. But we gotta understand that you can't turn back the clock either. Can we go back to that sort of player mindset where you don't search for a group through a menu, that you gotta type and trade, hit enter, control V, LFG something something something, hit enter and wait and hope. can the modern community go back to that? I'm kind of a skeptic on that. But even then, I'm more of a that's still not the focus that I want to get into. It's not about creating a server community or having Blizzard make a server community. It's more like giving us better tools so that we can make our own small community. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm trying to preach so hard. So while I'm upset that the 8.2 changes to the Guild Finder were reverted, I really hope it's because they plan on bringing in something better, because the present sucks for the community. There are still problems in WoW that don't have anything to do with whether you're in a guild or if you're in a bug. If classes don't feel great, then they don't feel great. But it's not like fixing the social structure of WoW is the silver bullet that will fix everything. It was like a couple months ago now, when I talked about the two big things that WoW needs to improve on. One of them is the way class progression goes, from level 1 to max level and beyond that, to make it feel more meaningful and make it feel like there are things that are carrying from expansion to expansion, and the social structure, that there needs to be better community tools to help foster something permanent. And a search option would fucking be it'd be a good start.